County Board of Supervisors back to order. And again, I will now turn the election item 9, C10, the County Board Chair, over to the clerk to conduct the election.
Thank you. At this point, I will entertain nominations for County Board Chair from the floor.
I nominate Kurt Gibbs.
Can you identify yourself, please?
Supervisor Mask.
Supervisor Mask nominates Kurt Gibbs. Any other nominations from the floor? Any other nominations from the floor? Any other nominations from the floor? Hearing none, we will proceed to vote. This will be a poll pushed out to you like it was previously, if you'll be patient just for a moment. Okay, my apologies. We need to ask for a nomination or a motion to close nominations. Do I have a motion to close nominations?
This is Supervisor Longhorn. I make the motion to close nominations.
Do I have a second to the motion? Supervisor Rosenberg with the second, Supervisor Longenhan with the motion. Again, we'll put the poll out. If you'll be patient just for a couple.
All in favor?
I'm sorry. We have to vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Clerk, this is Supervisor Longhorn. Can I ask a question for clarification?
Certainly.
Can I make a motion just to cast a unanimous ballot in favor of Kurt Gibbs? Could I make that motion here and save the trouble of having a poll?
Yes, you may. We need a second. Is there a second to that motion?
Supervisor Pfeiffer, second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor for unanimous consent, seconded by Supervisor Pfeiffer. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
First, let me thank you for all of your support. And I will try to do the best job that I can moving forward for the next 2 years. We'll move on. I'm very humbled. Moving on to item C11, I will entertain motions for the vice chair.
Supervisor Stark would like to propose Craig McEwen for vice chair.
Supervisor Stark nominates Supervisor McEwen for vice chair. Any other nominations? Any other nominations for vice chair? Who raised their hand?
The pay rate goes down considerably.
Any other nominations? I see one supervisor raise their hand. Is Supervisor Seiler is recognized.
That was a mistake. I apologize.
Supervisor Robinson is recognized. Thank you.
I would move nominations be closed and that an unanimous ballot be cast for Supervisor McEwen.
I second.
Who made the second?
Lamont.
Supervisor Lamont made the second. Supervisor Robinson made the motion to cast a unanimous, to end nominations and cast a unanimous ballot for Supervisor McEwen for vice chair. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Nay? Motion is carried. Vice Chair McEwen is reelected as vice chair. And we will move on to information discussion regarding agenda items for the Thursday, April 23rd, 2020 meeting. Under item D, 12A, appointment. A, Acting Facility and Capital Management Director. The appointment is by the administrator. Excuse me, I apologize. I did not recognize the vice chair. The vice chair wanted to have a moment. I will recognize the vice chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the entire Marathon County Board. I appreciate your support. I enjoyed enjoyed working with every standing committee with the strategic plan, and you made my job very easy. The strategic plan has moved forward. We've had a lot of success on the strategic plan, and that's because of the dedication and hard work from the staff, the committee chairs, and each and every supervisor on the county board. And I look forward to working with the standing committees again, and thank you again for your support.
Okay, now we will move on to information discussion regarding agenda items for Tuesday, April 23rd, 2020. Item D, 12A, appointment, Acting Facility Capital Management Director. I would have the clerk read the appointment. No, I'm sorry.
Appointing Terry Kaiser of Wausau to serve as Acting Director of Facilities and Capital Management for Marathon County, effective April 20, 2020.
Any discussion on that item? Any discussion on that agenda item? Okay, moving on to item D, 13A, ordinance, Town of Green Valley rezone, Paul Munt and Mary Munt and Dolores Munt, ordinance 0-13-20. I will announce to the full board, I had a letter that was drafted and sent to me. I received it at 12:39 p.m. today. It was addressed, the email was addressed that had the letter attached, was addressed, the email was addressed to the clerk, the chair, and the vice chair. It is an objection to the zoning change submitted by Paul Munt. I'm not going to read it. It is over 4 pages long. But I have reached out to staff. I've reached out to the committee members who have made that recommendation coming forward, and I've reached out to Corp Counsel, and who has reviewed that letter. The staff believe they followed all appropriate procedures and allowed everyone that had it from the public had an opportunity to present their position at the public hearing. The committee voted unanimously to move it forward, and but I will provide that letter to any supervisor or all supervisors if they want a copy of that letter, again, addressed to dear supervisors. It's requesting that we deny the change, but again, I would let you know that I have reached out to the staff of the CPZ, I have reached out to Corp Counsel, and I've reached out to the committee, and the committee had a unanimous ballot recommending approval. So is there any discussion on that agenda item?
Mr. Chair, this is Supervisor Longenhan requesting to speak.
Supervisor Longenhan is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was for that meeting and for this past term, I've been the Environmental Resources Committee Chairman, and I did want to speak and provide a little bit of background for the rest of the county board as to what had happened at our final meeting here. It would have been about 2 weeks ago now. So what happened was that we had a rather large group of individuals come to testify under the rezone that's on the agenda here tonight. There were a number of, I think we had between 22 and 25 individuals speak. The majority of them being neighbors to the Green Valley rezone here. I believe the information is provided in your packet by staff. I believe one person spoke in favor of it, who was the property owner, and the rest either declined to speak or spoke against it. All in all, we spent about the better part of two hours just on this one rezone. So we got a lot of facts presented to us, and with everything being brought ahead, I do have to commend the rest of the Environmental Resources Committee for the work that they did, because this was not a decision to be taken lightly. A lot of the concerns that the neighbors were raising were concerns related to public safety or environmental concerns. After reviewing the information with staff, we couldn't find anything definitive or factual that would lead us to deny this rezone. This is perfectly well within the rights of the property owner. They are not doing anything that violates our ordinances by doing this. In fact, if the committee or if the county board on Thursday decided to deny this rezone, I think you could make a very, very good argument that you could say that the county board went against their own ordinances. So I would just urge everybody to keep that in mind when we move forward to Thursday. The other thing I want to throw out there is that the town board of Green Valley approved this rezone. So to our best knowledge, every single entity, every agency that would be applicable in this situation, they've reviewed it. We don't approve anything without the town board's approval. So if they're approving it, they know that neighborhood very well. They know best. So like I said, we spent a lot of time on this. We heard a lot of testimony. All in all, even in the end here, I still say that we need to approve this because we have to follow our rules as written. So thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Supervisor Long, and I do have a question. Could you at least please describe the zoning change that is and the potential zoning use of that property as to why it created so much controversy?
Sure, Mr. Chair. Do we? So in response, I would ask that. Do we have Mr. Corbett present this evening?
We do.
Okay, so I just want to, Mr. Corbett, if at any time, because of the nature of this contested item, if at any time I start to get too far off track, I would like you to get me back on. So, just with respect to the county and the fact that I don't want to put the county in any awkward situation. So I'm going to pull up on my computer here. I'm going to pull up the agenda to get the exact language from the town board from this past month. But in the meantime, I can say that the main concern from the neighbors, there were two main concerns. One of them was that the individual may be using this property for storage units, to put up some storage units on the property. The only thing I would say is that with this zone change, that is perfectly within his right to do on here. That is not something that he would not be permitted to do. The other thing that a few of the neighbors had pointed out was that this property was rather close to, I want to say, the Mead wildlife. Anybody can correct me if I'm wrong after I speak here, but from what I understand, that was a factual matter, and it was at the end disproven. So now, okay, I had that information in front of me, Mr. Chair. It says here, Paul Muntz on behalf of Mary Muntz and Dolores Muntz, Life Estates, general agricultural to low-density residential and neighborhood commercial town of Green Valley. So in this case, he's changing it from general ag to low-density residential and neighborhood commercial, which is, I believe, and I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but I believe that is in order to put up these storage sheds for commercial use. The other thing I want to add, this
Okay, I would just say that was the usage and that was the change?
from what I understand, Mr. Corbett, that is what the information was leading us to believe.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any,
Sorry, Mr. Chair, did you want me to continue?
nope, we're looking for what the change was proposed to be used for.
Okay, so yeah, if there are any other questions, that's all I got for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on that agenda item, item D, 13A?
Supervisor Lowe?
Supervisor Lowe is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wouldn't feel comfortable voting for this on Tuesday if I didn't know what was in the letter. Could you please send that letter to everyone on the board?
I sure can. I will forward a copy of that letter to every supervisor on the board. Supervisor Geld.
Thank you, Chair. I'm a member of the ERC committee, and I just wanted to bring something up that I think will be important for the full board to keep in mind, in addition to what Supervisor Longenhan stated. One of the items that was kind of challenging for us during this debate, but that I think is very important, is that this approval does not in any way directly approve the erecting of anything, including storage units. All it does is change the zoning for this piece of property. One of the items that could potentially be put onto the property is storage units. However, we are not at this time approving anything like that. So when I have a suspicion of what the letter may say, because we received quite a few in our committee. And it is important to keep in mind that we as a board cannot decide what should or should not go up there unless we're looking at a conditional use. This is not a conditional use item. So all we can look at is this a legally appropriate change based upon how it's being developed? And after a number of questions that were posed to our staff, we did determine that of all of the options, this was the most appropriately requested changes to the type of zoning for that property. So I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on that agenda item? Okay, moving on to item 14, resolutions. D, 14A1, A, County Board of Supervisors revised resolution to suspend rules 2.01, parent 1, parent F, comma, parent 9, parent B, comma, parent 10, parent A, parent 7, and parent 15A2 to permit the members of the county board to participate by phone in meetings of the full board and to temporarily suspend the public comment portion of the meetings of the the county board and its subgroups. Resolution 29-20. What I will remind this board is when we just passed the rules by which we are governed, one of those rules prohibits the full board from participating by phone and or WebEx. And so this rule, if not adopted by this board, would mean that we would have to meet in full. And while the COVID-19 is still in place, we need to respect the social distancing and the safety issues that are presented in this community. So I'm looking for a motion to take action on this agenda item, and it does require a 2/3 majority vote. Supervisor Johnson with the motion to approve. Supervisor Conway. Supervisor Conway?
I would second, although I noticed the 7th whereas has an erroneous "the" at the front of it, which the English portion of my nerdism is being sad with that. It says the while the public has the right.
Okay. That's a Scribner note or error, and we will make that correction. Is there any other discussion on this agenda item? Sarah, Supervisor Guild, his hand is still raised. If you do not wish to address this issue, please lower your hand on your iPad. Supervisor Zhang.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess I just want some clarification. So if we were to suspend this, we would also be temporarily suspending the public comment portion as well. I guess this question would be directed towards Mr. Corbett. If we were to temporarily suspend the public comment portion, would we be setting ourselves up for any liabilities or anything that potentially could cause come back and harm us?
I will allow the Corp Counsel to address the board on that question.
And my lawyer answer is that depends. No, I will say that it has been the consistent position of Marathon County Corp Counsel and the Wisconsin Department of Justice that public comment is not a required part of county board or its subgroup meetings. These meetings are essentially business meetings of a corporation, the county corporation. And so the public actually does not have a right to participate in those meetings unless it's scheduled for a public hearing as designated in statute. And there are many times that we have to do that, rezone, for example, or when we go to we go for budget. But the public comment is not required by law. It has been deemed desirable because it does give the public an opportunity to come in and address the board on something that might not be on the agenda and bring it to the board's attention so that the board can think about putting it on an agenda for future discussion. And so many different county boards, other municipality boards have adopted rules that permit public comment. And Marathon County made that judgment several years ago that we were going to do that. But as you can see, the idea with this is that especially when we have a meeting this large, guaranteeing that the public are going to be able to be given an equitable opportunity to speak, it's very hard to guarantee. I would ask you to look at the third portion, or at the bottom of the resolution. What we talk about is this suspension lasting until the voting meeting in July. I have no intention of suspending this indefinitely. The idea is to either, probably to craft a better rule that's going to serve the interests of the public and the county board, and to see how things develop. Obviously, there are new orders being issued and court cases coming down that alter how we view things, but it's not intended to be a long-term suspension.
Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion?
I'm Seibert here.
Supervisor Seibert.
Would it be possible to allow letters or emails in the public comment, just as you brought up a few minutes ago?
It's always encouraged that the public can participate and communicate with not only the supervisors, but to the full board. So I have never discouraged that. I, in fact, encourage that. Supervisor Fisher is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do definitely agree with suspending these current rules and the idea of leading from the front and, social distancing and applying safety and really showing and demonstrating through our action that this is I fully support this idea.
Okay, any other further discussion? Any further discussion? Supervisor Zhang still has his hand up on the iPad. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of the revised resolution to suspend the rules as stated earlier, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say no. And the motion is carried. Thank you. We'll move on to item D, 14B1, Human Resources, Finance, and Property Committee. Item 1, restructuring of the Central Wisconsin Airport Management. Resolution R-30-20. Any questions on that restructuring? Okay, moving on to item D, 14B2, medical examiner acceptance of grant funds from the Healthcare Emergency Readiness Coalition, Resolution 31-20. Any discussion? Item D, 14B3, approval of the 2020 budget transfers for Marathon County Department of Appropriations, Resolution 32-20. Any questions? And item D, 14C1, Environmental Resources Committee and Park Commission, One, participation on State Motorized Recreational Trail AIDS Program, Resolution 33-20. Any questions on that resolution? Announcements and/or requests. There are several announcements. In your packet, you should have or in your mailbox, a yellow WCA survey from WCA. It's anonymous. Please take the time when you do stop in to sign the oath of office, to fill that survey out. It's how WCA gathers just demographic information on the county board's makeup statewide and the change in the demographics. We also, a reminder that supervisors need to come in at least by May 1 to sign their oath of office. And also any supervisors that are here, please check your mailbox before leaving the courthouse today. Any other announcements and/or requests from supervisors? Yep.
Yes. Supervisor Mask?
Supervisor Mask is recognized.
As some of you know, and what the new members should know, I am a board member of the Partnership for Progressive Agriculture, and I am very sadly announcing that we have indefinitely canceled our major event of the year, and that is our beautiful June dairy breakfast. I don't know if it will be rescheduled, and this is a big event for the county and for our rural community. It's just really a sad time, and I just wanted everyone to know that. Thank you.
Thank you. Corp Counsel Corbett has an announcement to make.
Sorry, and I'll make this 30 seconds. I'm a lawyer. I got to say one more thing. In my haste to answer Supervisor Zhang, I neglected to say that, of course, the public has the right to monitor and listen to and witness the decisions being made by the county board and its subgroups. The suspension is not intended to limit that whatsoever.
Okay, any other announcements and/or requests? Supervisor Krause.
Hello, thank you. As a member of the disability community, I would like to mention some things about the quarantine, sequestering, social distancing, and safe at home. People with disabilities, this is their normal way of life. So a lot of people are undergoing stress right now with staying at home and the financial problems that causes. Well, people with disabilities have been living with this for years or lifelong, and that includes people with cancer. We have 5.6 million older adults in the U.S. live with Alzheimer's dementia. 40% of older adults take 5 medications or more. 40% of people age 65 plus have at least one disability, with mobility being the most common. And there are people among us who live with disabilities like cancer, heart disease, fibromyalgia, and many other illnesses for which there are no cures. Thank you.
Thank you. I will remind all supervisors moving forward that the rules require that any announcements be 30 seconds or less. But any other announcements, please?
Kurt?
Supervisor Van Cray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And if this is not the time to do this, please let me know for the future. But I wanted to say thank you to Jean and Jerry from IT for helping run these meetings. It's really appreciated, and I know it's very difficult. So thank you, guys.
Very much appreciated, absolutely. Supervisor Robinson is recognized.
Thank you, Supervisor Gibbs. I just encourage all members of the county board to reach out to our congressional and state delegation as it relates to funding for the COVID-19 issue. The Wisconsin Counties Association put out a call to contact the governor's office to encourage them to set aside part of the $2.3 billion for counties. They were asking for 30%. And also on a federal level, is the federal government is dealing with the next round of funding. They are leaving counties out, and we just need to encourage them to try to consider covering some of our costs associated with responding to the pandemic as well as our lost revenues.
The critical part is, Supervisor, thank you, Supervisor Robinson. The critical part there is, you're absolutely right. You know, currently the part of that $2.2 trillion stimulus package that was passed by the Congress allocates about $2.3 billion to the state, and we're asking all supervisors to contact their state representatives and or the governor to allocate 30% of that directly to the counties. The other thing is the current legislation that looked like it may have had bipartisan, or may have had a vote on this afternoon, COVID 3.5, did at one point in its discussion have set aside several monies directly for counties to reimburse them for lost revenue. That's been removed, but it's still being looked at for future legislation, and has been agreed to be discussed for future legislation. With that, is there any other announcements? Seeing none, I declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for participating, and thank you for your support.